Content warning. The stories and themes shared throughout this podcast may contain themes that can be distressing for you. If needed, please pause and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If needed, please reach out to a mental health professional for support.
Welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana, but you will notice that this is not Alana. I was going to say this is not Blair, but this is Blair, and that is not Alana. That is Deb Drummond. Oh my gosh. I am so happy that she is back on the pod. I've known her since I moved to Vancouver. We go way back almost 18 years, and we've been on a journey together. And lately, in the last few years, we've been in each other's lives a lot more, which I think is super beautiful. She is a pioneer in the world of entrepreneurship. To date, she has built 7 international companies and inspired thousands around the globe. She's the founder behind the Show Up, Stand Up, Speak Up, Yes You movement, a televised heart project with a reach of over 350 million, designed to remember the solidarity of International Women's Day. Deb owns the Women's Channel, offering accessible televised opportunities to all women. I'm going to put her whole bio in the show notes because it's very big because she's done a lot of really cool things. And as I chat with her every time, whether I'm in the same room as her or on a call or texting, I'm always learning something new about her. And I just want to read the end of her bio because, well, you'll see why. Deb loves music and is happiest when she's connecting to people that she knows will benefit from meeting each other. And if you go to her home, you will be, oh, my hand raised. You'll be greeted with a table of treats that look like she took over Willy Wonka's candy shop. And it's true. I went there and this little sugar addict was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And like I'll never forget. I've been to your house a couple times and sitting around with like your crystals and your decor, and I know your home is so sacred, so you're very selective about who you let in there, and it's just such a beautiful energy. And I just wanted to share that because it just shows who you are. Like you having all those treats out aren't free. I mean, maybe a little bit for you, but it's for the people you bring into your home. And that you are, you call yourself an entrepreneur, but you are a super connector. And I'm just so excited to talk to you today.
Well, thank you. That's so kind. And the interesting thing about the gifting table at the front per se is that started when I was at the studio. And of course, you've been at the studio, and we used to do these great big open houses, and we had this big candy bar kind of thing. And it used to be all like natural and sugar-free and da-da-da. And honestly, people just wanted a treat. So I thought, you know what? I'm spending a cajillion dollars on all these beautiful, da-da-da-da. And so it is just a full-on candy bar, and I change it every month. The only month that there's not a lot of candy is St. Patrick's Day, March, where it's full of different whiskey and some chocolate. You know what I mean? And the thing is, I'm allergic to sugar, so I don't ever participate that. But I have my own little treats under the counter of sugar-free cookies.
Like I love that. Yeah, it's okay, so we're gonna talk about your story, but a quick little side quest. I'm sober. I have addiction. I live with addiction, and which is why I'm sober. But sugar is a big problem for me, and I go through phases where I cut it out and I add it back in. But as a little kid, both my grandparents always had candy bowls, and I would obviously go right to them and eat them and put candy in my pocket. And my Baba Ruthie, my mom's mom would hide the candy bowl. And I would always pretend I had no idea where it was. And I always knew where it was. And I would take candy. And then in my diary at night, I would talk about how I stole candy from Baba's. So it was just so funny. Every so often I'll try and put a candy bowl out. But between me and my husband, it doesn't last very long. But as someone who loves sugar, I can't cut out all my vices, but
right.
I love it. And it gave me it's a very nostalgic feeling for me.
It is very nostalgic. It's like I remember going and buying, different candies, and you could buy them individually and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it is a part of nostalgia, and particularly when I go through I'll do one that's all like 60s candy, like the pink elephant popcorn and the Pezzas, and it's fun. It's like,
I love that.
Yeah.
That's epic. Well, we're here to talk about resilience. And so, I've known you for almost 2 decades now, and over the last few years, we've been doing a lot of really beautiful cross collaborations between your community and our community. And we've been in the same places, including, gifting lounges in LA at the Oscars and the Emmys. And it's really beautiful to, lift while we climb. And I know just from on a personal note, not only are you, with your book and you have your planner and your community, you have also launched a TV network and you helped your son launch a business, and there's a lot of moving parts. Let's maybe just talk about the last like period of time in your life, because it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. And I think it's just one of those things where it's an honest conversation, because the world only sees what we put out, but like it's a big job and not everything always goes as planned.
True and true. I just finished, internally with our organization, we have a 911 entrepreneurial 2 days that people can call and go, hey, I'm an entrepreneur and this kind of like, I need help. We call it the 911, but it's basically you can ask about your business. And I said there needs to be one for leaders. I was talking to someone yesterday and I'm like, it'd be great to have a place for leaders of organizations or leaders of groups or people that have those multi-moving parts. And of course they said, well, why don't you organize it? And I'm like, nope, nope, but I'll participate or I would collaborate. And there is a lot of resilience that needs to happen when you are what I call holding container, holding space for other people. I know you get that, holding space for other people to have their experiences organically, and particularly, yes, with my son. I mean, he's 21 and decided to entrepreneur at 15. And many times I just had a little conversation with him and he was like, but I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, you need to do that, and I say to him sometimes, dentistry would have been good. Like, could we just all put you in university and you go be a dentist? But particularly the fact that he's chosen to be an entrepreneur and he has multiple parts on top of our multiple parts. I mean, for sure. I say, Blair, how people go, oh, my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm like, well, I've surpassed journey. And I always say a journey now is going from one pub to another pub in Ireland to get a cold beer. But I say that this has been more, the last few years is definitely a stretch to significance.
Yeah.
Stretch.
And let's talk about that, because not only was he, launching his clothing company, but you're like, so you're helping him momagering, and he's 21. And like you're not just putting out a book, but it's an anthology with hundreds of people's stories, and launching you have summits and launching a TV channel. So like, can you walk us through some of the challenges or lessons learned in juggling all these acts?
Yeah, I really think that, I have by nature in my entrepreneurial journey, because I didn't come from an entrepreneurial family or even an entrepreneurial culture, right? Like I started being an entrepreneur much like you before the world of social, before Google, before, tools that could come in to make things easier. And so I think because the journey's been very organic and in relationship, building upon, and for some reason, whether it's cyclical or whether it's spiritual, that I tend to be put, and look at, I say yes, so it's my own fault, in pioneering positions, right? So a women's channel or a 5-year book tour. I mean, look at both. I mean, we're at the gifting suites. Thank you to you going first. And so there's this pioneering piece that happens. I think the challenge for me with that is that when you are breaking ground on something that hasn't been done before and you're taking your people with you, it's high level pressure. Like it's high level pressure to navigate this new piece of what you're going to do for your business, and also new for other people that you're taking along, and their faith is in you.
Yeah.
Right? Your faith has to be in you. And that means that when you take it on, you're the first one up and you're the last to bed. So for me, one of the things I really have to do is match what I do for self-care or nutraceuticals or my selective way of thinking, like you said, who I'm spending time with and what have you, has to be really cognizant. And I'm human. So we have human barometer, we have human boundaries. I can't make more time in a day. So I have to be very calculated throughout the day on every minute counts. I think that is definitely, I'm not going to say challenging, but it's very calculated. and they can certainly add up very quickly. Because I have, and I don't know about you, but I suffer a little bit from, I want everybody to have value, and I want to follow through on what I say, and my word's really important. And, you know, I drilled that in with my two lovely children, like, you know, really your word is what you come in with, and it's what you go out with. So if you make a commitment to somebody, to do your very best to make sure they have that experience. So it is, it's tedious of the mind, for sure.
So, I mean, with like, I know people look at me and my schedule and everything I'm doing with like the podcast and the books and the community and the grief coaching and the courses I lead, plus my PR work. Wow, you're so busy. Oh my God, how do you have time to do anything? What do you do for self-care? And I like to say, like, busy to me feels like it's like in relation to anxious, like anxiety, where like I feel fulfilled and like everything I take on fulfills me. So it doesn't feel traditionally busy. But the question a lot of people have is like, how do you have time to take care of yourself? And you know, you did mention self-care. I'd love to know like what that looks like for you and how that fits into your schedule. Like for me, I get up 3 hours before my work day and I move my body and I hike and I have a bath and I journal and I, you know, like I have a slow morning to set myself up. And I make sure I take time off. And if I need to, like I was sharing that, you know, I had, you know, there was a medical issue. I rearranged my schedule for like 4 days because I can. Like, what do you what do you do to put Deb first or to take care of Deb while trying not to drop any balls?
Yeah. Well, two things. One is I don't let anyone say the B word. It's not a word that my team's allowed to say. When
Which
people say to
word?
me, "Oh my gosh, you're so," I go,
Oh, okay, that word.
you're gonna say the word B that ends with Y," and they're going, "Yeah." I go, "It's abundant."
Yeah,
Like, so I
exactly.
say that,
Fulfilled.
yeah.
But
So
yeah.
my schedule is abundant. Two, it fuels me, not drains me, right? It fuels me, not drains me. And the second thing is I do what I say is I do the very best that I can with what I have. But that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm pretty transparent. Like yesterday, I took the whole day off. Now, it doesn't mean that I had a couple of calls or texts that I, you know, and I was cognizant. I'm like, this has to get done with today. So it's a 5-minute text. I did a rebirthing session. It was super cool. But that was probably my first full self. I am consciously not in probably 2.5 months. And that sounds like, oh my gosh, you do, you know, like, no, but it means, doesn't mean that I didn't take care of myself. It means that that was just the way it was. You know, I had this event that back to this event that back to this, and it needed, and I have a large team. So I chose it because we do choose, but I'm not going to lie and say that there isn't times I'm not tired. There isn't times that, but there isn't times that I go, I don't want to do this anymore. But there is times that I'm tired. And what I do for myself, high level nutraceuticals. I mean, I don't negotiate.
Tell us more. Like people listening are probably like, what's a nutraceutical? Tell us more about what you do. And also, while you tell us this, you know, being tired, how do you fit in rest? So I want to go.
I sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
I sleep like a baby. So I'll tell you. So when I talk about high level nutraceuticals, now I don't want people to think that I don't have time to myself. I absolutely love and adore music. So if there's a concert in town, chances are I'm there. That's one thing that I mean, music is my therapist, right? And two, I listen to music and I love things that feed my brain. Like and I love marketing and I have media. So I listen to a lot of behavioral psychology and those kind of things. That's how I start my day. I start my day chilling out. I do the same thing. I book clients later than when I get up, and I do what I need to do so that I know that certain things are banked and taken care of. Because you got to think I've got my son's company as well, right? So I do that. But in terms of nutraceuticals, I mean, I come from the health field. So, you know, I had a 20-something year career in healing people, and I'm a formulator. So I know nutraceuticals, and I studied the brain, and I was traveling around the world teaching brain health before I was teaching media.
Question. Yeah. What is a nutraceutical?
Oh, what's a nutraceutical? Okay. So a nutraceutical.
Talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
No. That's okay. So a nutraceutical would be a vitamin, something that like, there's a pharmaceutical. So that's something that you go to your pharmacist for, and it would be a script from your doctor for something that you take for predominantly for an ailment or a condition that your body's got. For me, a nutraceutical is dual purpose. A nutraceutical is a natural form of something that if I was to relate it to something you would understand, it would be a pharmaceutical. So nutraceutical could be vitamin B, vitamin C. It could be, I take EHT for the brain. It could be omegas. It could be, so vitamins or a nutraceutical. There's a lot of supplements in the world that are natural based. That would be what a nutraceutical is called.
So like, it's like almost like a pharmaceutical, but natural.
Perfect.
Okay, now tell us about like your cocktail and what you take and why. Just and like I'm interested in it, and I think this is actually really valuable information for people to go and explore and research on their own.
Yeah. So, and if anyone wants to, because there's a lot of people that and a lot of companies that sell all the same thing, but they're not the same. Just like, there's a lot of people that sell clothing, but they're not the same. Eyeglasses, same thing. So if people want, it's not my brand. I would send you to trusted brands that I use. But so I take something as a brain supplement. For me, it's EHT. I think I'm pretty set on that. I studied the brain. So it's something that helps my brain in terms of memory, concentration, focus, and gives it stamina. I mean, look at I was built to do this. People are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do so much. I go, first of all, God made me this way. Second, I'm not complaining. So if that's the case, then I raise the bar. So I do that. I take something for adrenals. So if people are aware of anyone that's experienced burnout or true adrenal burnout, it's hard to recover. It can take 2 years to recover from burnout because you've burnt your adrenals. So I preventively double down on adrenal, I up my adrenals. So there's adrenal, there's brain. I take something that is for my mitochondria, which is the lung of the cell. It keeps the cell young. It's great if you want to reverse your age, but it also allows your cell to be so healthy. The food you take, it pulls in the nutraceutical. So I take something for mitochondria. I take something for the brain. I take something for adrenals. I take an overall, like all my B vitamins right now, because I was recovering from not feeling so well from all my travels. Like I was sharing with you, I just went and got a high level liquid vitamin C. So sometimes I'll add things to my world, depending on what it is that I need to take. I take a powder full of nutrients to feed my mitochondria once I open it up with the tablets that I take for my mitochondria. I sometimes I will take a drink that helps alkaline my body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite the regime.
For me, I look at my body as the most important piece of real estate I have. I don't care if I watch the same TV or sit on the same couch for 20 years. I really truly pour my money into my body.
Yeah. You know what? I'm the same way. I believe that like, I like to say I don't care about designer handbags or shoes. I like designer cats, but I also my cat's a designer cat.
Right on.
British long hair, but I spend like my health is my priority also.
Yeah.
Like, I will spend money on the nutrients, the practitioners, the tools. For me, I'd rather that because you're right, health is wealth and you only have one vessel, one body in this lifetime. So like what are you doing to take care of it? And people like you and I who are these extremely high performers, we have to put that effort in to be proactive instead of being reactive.
Oh, I just came, like I said, I literally was supposed to be at the Emmys and I woke up after this big, event, and for some reason caught something while I was away. Clearly, I take something to keep my I double my immune system as well. But clearly something got past the gate and I was feeling so unwell, I couldn't go. And yes, it was very disappointing. And my, the crew I was with is like, get this dress on and we're going to get you there. And I'm like, you know what? Someone else was meant to go, right? I gave up my ticket hours ago. But I got over that in 5 minutes because we all know that there's better things coming and blah, blah, blah. But the point was, it was a reminder again of, wow, as someone who is self-funding, my son looks and expects me to be self-funding, we really truly cannot afford, not just financially, because if we needed to take a week off, we probably are okay taking a week off, but also the way that my business is set up is that there's people relying on me.
Yeah.
That my world can't take a week off if I need to take a week off. So yes, I have a team that I can pass things over, but it's a really good reminder as an entrepreneur that you being out of the game for a while is not conducive.
Well, you know what? I think that's really important because a couple things. Like I've had my business for 18 years and like I really felt this when my mom died because it was right after my father-in-law died in our miscarriage, right before my dad died, and I couldn't really take the time off to mourn properly. But what's interesting, and like there's been times where I'm like, okay, I'll take a time off, but I bring my laptop and check my email and I'm not fully off, or I'll take 2 days off, but I'm actually next week. And by the time this comes out, this has already happened, so there'll probably be an update on this. But I'm actually going to a yoga retreat on Bowen Island next week. And I have my team, I have my business manager. She's basically keeps the wheels on my bus, knows I'm going to be offline. I'm not going to be checking my email. I'm actually probably not going to even be on my social media. I might pre-schedule some posts to go out, but I want to be fully offline minus checking in with like my husband and my sister.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the first time I've done like a Monday to Friday fully off. I can't even, maybe my honeymoon in 2018 was last time I took like actually took time off.
It's interesting, right? And you know what? Congratulations. And I get it. And I think that creatives get it. Like people say to me, oh, wouldn't it be, I mean, I have a list right here. It's like on the list on this piece of paper that I read every day, da 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 da, is a beautiful, I'd love to go yearly to a retreat for executives. That's what I have there, whatever that looks like, right? And it's interesting because as a creative, you know, my son paints. So people say to me, oh my gosh, you're so, I'll just say the word abundant, da 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 da, doesn't it get tiring, da 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 da. And I go, would you say that to a painter? Would you say that to someone who's creating murals? And they were like, oh, you know, probably not. But because it's entrepreneur and work related, there's this idea that it's upsetting to me to check my emails or upsetting me to check my phone in the morning. But it's actually the opposite. It gives me fuel and it gives me joy. So when someone else is playing pickleball, I don't have a problem creating a new design for the cover of a book or something.
Yeah.
But the price of that joy or the price of the freedom or the way that we play, I mean, we don't have to keep going up the ladder, but we do because we're creative. That's probably some of the price that we pay, even though it doesn't feel like we pay it, like it's a cost, but for sure.
Well, and like I think that's very valid. And like for me, it's not, if I answer a couple emails on the weekend, it's not a big deal, but sometimes it'll pull me from being in a different headspace. And so for me, what I've noticed, well, I know this, but when I'm disconnected, whether it's just for the weekend or a few days, or even one day, I come back fresher and more ideas. And I came up with this quote years ago on my older podcast, Dissecting Success, saying, in stillness we create. And, you know, it's in rest when we do the work. And I've had on my list all summer to work on my manuscript for my prescriptive memoir based on the Navigating Grief framework and the research I've gathered. And I didn't do it. So what I'm actually hoping is I am bringing my laptop. I'm hoping that I feel those bursts of inspiration to write. So I am going to be, like, when I say I'm off, I mean, like, I'm not going to be answering my emails or, you know, working with my team. But if I feel inspired, I'm not going to turn the inspiration down, say, sorry, come back later. I'm going to open my laptop and write.
Yeah. And I think that when you are of such, like, we get that and we understand that. Same thing, like, okay, yesterday I took the first full day off. I did a rebirthing session. I took myself out for a late lunch. I walked around the city. And I know even when I turn my phone over and go have a couple of hours, you're 100% correct. That's when, for me, my creativity has a conversation with me. Or yesterday morning when I was looking at my treasure maps, and I've been doing treasure mapping for so long, I've got 4 of them double-sided, you know what I mean? And I'm looking at them and, oh yeah, which am I going to keep and what am I not? I think your downtime or your creative time allows you to let your soul converse with you. That for me is the bonus in checking and going side left. So if I'm doing my normal thing, but when I pull back, then I get these great conversations with myself, or some people would call it universe or spirit or God, starts to have this other great perspective to what's going on. Driving that back to resilience and driving that back to the topic of conversation is it takes a lot of resilience to hold the container, to be energetically there for people, to self-soothe yourself in your life as you go through your life and still hold vision. I mean, we're freaking visionaries. And so that is a lot. And that is in itself a major form of resilience.
100%. So as we wrap up here, all your links, everything is going to be in the show notes. Why don't we share a piece of advice for someone who has a lot of balls in the air, who maybe is feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? I want to give up. Because you said that's never kind of where you're at. Like what advice do you have for that entrepreneur, or that person who has so many things going on and they feel like they can't find that time to take care of themselves and rest?
Well, I would say 2 things. One is if you feel like you're the only person, because that's a different kind of entrepreneur, right? And I don't say that there's levels of entrepreneurs in terms of like, ooh, you so much better, you just more cray-cray. So I would say try to have conversations like we're having here, where you can be honest. So I've had times where, like I said, I don't by nature go through, should I do this? I'm not sure that this is my dharma or my passion or my this. That's different. I'm very clear on purpose, but there is times where I wake up and I'm like, wow, I'm not even going to count how many days like I've got to get up and do this. And that's an indicator that I might need to change something. But for me, I get up in the morning and I move to gameplay, meaning what's going to fill my soul. For me, it happens to be music. So the first thing that I play usually is inspirational to me. So what's your gameplay? Like, what's your gameplay? What do you do for your head to keep you in passion or in project? And don't apologize. I cannot tell you how many years I apologized to people or felt like I had to justify myself. People would say to me, you're so busy. And I say it like that because that's how I would hear it in my head. It wasn't how they said it, but I hear it in my head. And it was almost like I had to apologize for being who I was until I realized I was a creative and not just an entrepreneur. And I was like, well, you know what? I really love what I do and it's okay. And I do take care of myself. And I'd start this defense thing and I'd be like, so if they're like, you're so busy. And I'm like, I am really abundant. And oof, I love that so much better than the opposite. And until I could finally say that and not feel like, so if don't apologize for who you are, like be in it, just find some people that you can really be honest with, like true, honest, I'm exhausted today, or I don't know my next step, or I don't know where my next dollar is going to come from, or I don't know how I'm going to make that. Like that's true.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Deb's story is in almost all of our books, Resilient AF.
The last
stories
two
of,
for sure.
yeah. So Resilient AF, Stories of Resilience, Resilient AF, Stories of Resilience, Volume 2, and you're going to be in Skin Deep Stories. And so, I mean, as you can tell, she has a lot of stories. And I want to invite you to read her story and to get to know her and, connect with her on social media, be a part of her world. And thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. This was such a treat.
It was such a treat. Isn't it nice when you get to do things with cool people that you love? That's a bonus.
I think so too. Yeah. And thank you to everyone who tuned in for another episode of Resilient AF. You are not alone. It is okay to not be okay. We are here to walk with you alongside you in this chapter and beyond. Let us be that lighthouse in the storm. And just remember, friends, you are resilient AF. Welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. But pause the Alana and bring in Dr. Parul Dua Makkar. I am so excited about today's guest. Ever since I met her through a grief community, I felt like an instant connection. Her energy is so positive and uplifting, and I had the privilege of meeting her when we did our first official New York City book launch. She came to celebrate that book, and I had the pleasure of meeting her, and she has been through it. So, Dr. Parul Dua Makkar is a dentist, author, and grief coach whose life and work were forever shaped by loss. First, her younger brother to oral cancer, and later, her father. She channels that grief into action, educating healthcare professionals and the public on oral cancer prevention and early detection, while creating compassionate spaces for conversations about grief. Through her work, she bridges science and empathy, reminding us that awareness saves lives and shared stories heal hearts. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited. I have been following you before I reached out and connected with you, and I'm so glad that we're in this space together. So thank you.
Thank you. And there's that extra connection. If anyone out there has been following along, some of you might be new to my space. If you're new because you came in through Dr. Parul, what should I call you? Should I call you doctor? Should I
Parul.
talk Parul? Okay,
Just call me Parul.
Parul.
Yes.
I don't know, doctor. Parul is a dentist and very involved in the dental community. And for those of you who are new to her world, her links are in the show notes. You're going to get to know her in a second. But for those of you who are from her world that are new to my world, in a very short period of time, I suffered a lot of loss, including my father-in-law, a miscarriage, my mom dying, my dad dying, my husband almost dying. But and my mother, mine and Alana's mother, like raised us as a single mom, and she's a dental hygienist, and our life was very heavily centered around teeth, very heavily centered around teeth, like so much so, like when our mom passed away, like she worked at the same clinic, or is it a clinic? Same
An dental office.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
dental office for almost 30 years. And she was about to celebrate her 30 years there. And she had this, like, the op room one was like hers, even though no one had their own op room. Like,
Yeah.
that was her room. And so when she passed away, they actually put up a plaque outside that room with like her face on it. And it was just so
Oh,
beautiful because,
so special.
yeah, it was so beautiful because her patients were like, they met her 30 years ago, and she's the
Yeah.
only dental hygienist they go to.
Wow.
And I look a lot like my mom, and even it just happened, I'm in Winnipeg right now, and I was at synagogue, which I haven't done in decades, and this lady kept looking at me. This happens all the
Mm.
time. And she comes up to me after, she's like, "Excuse me, do I know you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, who are you?" "I am Blair Kaplan Venables." And she looks at me and like, my mother is Sharon Kaplan. And
Yeah.
she was a dental hygienist who my mom took over her spot at a dental clinic like 30 whatever years ago. She's like, "You
Wow.
look identical to your mother," and like obviously shared her condolences. But
Yeah.
it happened when I lived here. People would stop me at the club or at the grocery store, like, "Are you
Yeah.
Sharon's daughter?"
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
and like I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, oh, she's my dental hygienist. Like, you look just like her, and I know so much about you." But anyways, I have such a strong like love for the dental community because of my mother and her passion and like just my experience through her. So I felt that extra connection to you. So I just wanted to, share that. And it's
So special.
it's your story is it's heavy because your brother was also a dentist.
Correct. He was a dentist and he actually went to UBC in Vancouver. So Vancouver has a special place in my heart. And but I'm from Calgary and yeah, he followed my footsteps and unfortunately passed in 2021 in the midst of
So
COVID.
yeah, so let's talk about your brother. Tell us like what's your brother's name and tell us the story about your brother and his journey.
Yeah. So Manu Dua, it was his name, and he was my younger and only sibling. Like we're both 7.5 years apart. So I remember having to go to the hospital, oh, this is back when we weren't having the technology quite, I'm talking almost 40 years ago,
Hmm.
that what you're having. And so I'm like, I want a sister, right? And I'm like, dang, I have a brother. What am I going to do with him? He would color all over my books. I've changed his diapers, seen him take his first few steps in front of me, and then he followed my footsteps into dentistry. And our upbringing was so different. I feel like so I grew up in different parts of the world. I was born in India. Manu was born in Abu Dhabi. That's where I grew up. And I went to college when he was only 10. And so we're different generations, different genders, different upbringing. And so what united us was dentistry. And we would talk about cases, go to courses together as he grew older. So that was our bond. And and he was a really good dentist. He was very vocal about his journey off oral cancer. He wrote an article in a dental magazine called Doctor Heal Thyself about, he mentioned it as a shoemaker whose own shoe was broken. And so he was an eloquent writer and wrote, and thus I finished his blogs into the book because that was another thing that would bring us together, unite us, something tangible. And he had a lesion that had a late diagnosis and eventually, within a year and a half, died. And I just didn't want his story to be just that. And I wanted it to be a change. And that's my advocacy work in oral cancer.
And I think that's so beautiful that you're carrying on his legacy. And, that's so heartbreaking. And I am so sorry that you lost your brother. I can't even imagine what it would be like to lose a sibling. And the irony of him being a dentist and dying from oral cancer. Before we kind of go deeper, like, could we talk about the signs of oral cancer and how that happened?
Sure. So cancer in the mouth is detected sometimes a lot later, like about 70 to 80% cases are diagnosed at stage 3 and 4, and the mortality rate drops to less than 50%. And the reason for late diagnosis, because a lot of these lesions you don't really know about because they could be painless. And so anything that's red or white in your mouth that is non-healing. So you could have had a cold sore, you could have had, you know, burnt your on coffee, burnt the roof of your mouth, you could have had shingles, virus, or any other viral infection. But anything in your mouth, if you have, redness, red spots or white spots, should heal within 2 weeks. And if not, painful or not, they should get biopsied. A lot of these lesions are on your tongue, the floor of the mouth, things that we should be able to see. Uh, but there are two types of oral cancer. One is the oral cavity cancer. That's anything, the lip or tongue, like more of the interior. And then anything in the back of the throat, that's your oropharyngeal. And those are much harder to detect. Sometimes you have to get scopes done with an ENT to really look in. And that's kind of the cancer that Val Kilmer, he just recently passed away from it, and Michael Douglas, more prominent names have had. So it's, if you have trouble swallowing, you feel anything on a lump on one side, anything that's unilateral, if you stick your tongue out and it deviates and you can't stick it out straight because something is kind of in the way, unilateral ear pain if it's not related to a joint issue or a wisdom tooth. So anything one-sided, any trouble doing any of those things, or a red white lesion that hasn't healed. Those are some common signs.
Wow. And what were the signs for Manu?
Manu had a lesion on the lateral border, so on the side of his tongue, that was not healing. He couldn't swallow as the lesion grew bigger and bigger. So when he showed me the lesion in June, a picture. And then I flew to Calgary like I do every summer, and I saw him in July, and I looked at him, it was this brown, leathery, like half his tongue was, and he's like, I haven't been able to sleep. We went out for sushi. He's like, I can't eat the wasabi. It burns, it's trouble eating spicy things and trouble sleeping, earache, all of those symptoms. And I said, why have you not biopsied this? He's like, I was just waiting for you to leave, come have your visit. And then I will biopsy this when I leave, when I left back to New York, and the biopsy came as stage 2. So yeah, it started with a non-healing lesion that never got biopsied in time.
So if someone does have something similar, or like what you're saying, do they go to a dentist or do they go to a doctor?
Dentist. They
Wow.
go to a dentist because the dentist is the one who's going to be, if they're doing their own biopsies, but they will refer to the oral cancer, like an oral surgeon, oral pathologist, somebody who will actually biopsy it. Doctors, unfortunately, will not know what to do with it, and they're not going to be able to do the biopsy. They're going to have to send. So a lot of the dentists are able to do their biopsies in their office. I definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one proponent in my course is like, do your biopsies yourself because it saves the patient time from having to see a new doctor, a new specialist. Do it
Mm-hmm.
in the office. Time is of an essence because the neck node system in your neck area here is one of the largest in our bodies. And so if you get in cancer and it spreads quickly to the nodes, it has a higher chance of metastasizing. And so we want to catch these cancers much earlier and do a more conservative treatment than having to lose like part of your face. Manu lost part of his tongue and had to be regrafted. Um, but it's scarring. It's a tough cancer to deal with. It changes the way the world sees you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. That's really heavy. So with Manu, from like learning he had oral cancer till he passed away, how long was that?
Year and a half. He was officially diagnosed in August of 2019 and died March of 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, that
And
quick.
that's like pandemic.
Prime pandemic, borders were shut down. I needed a compassion release from the government of Canada. And, one of those things is like when I told Manu, I'm like, this lesion looks suspicious of cancer because I shared it with all my specialist friends. And he's like, I can't have cancer. I'm 30 something. I'm young and I'm healthy, like non-smoker, non-drinker, no risk factors. So unfortunately, this is more and more prevalent in our younger generation. Cancer has no bar. So if there is something that is, and I'm sure you've seen this in your lifetime, right? Like lots of people who are young and with no predisposing conditions are getting diagnosed with cancer. And so really it's just paying attention to your signs and symptoms and getting the help before it's too late.
Yeah. Wow. Only a year and a half. And so you were in New York, which was like extremely shut down, and you had to,
Oh, the epicenter.
yeah, you
Bodies were
were,
thrown in in do you remember that time they were showing in New York City they were throwing bodies into trailers and
yeah.
it was an epidemic here.
And
Yeah.
you were able to get on a plane and go to Calgary.
Without being vaccinated
Wow.
because I in December of 2020 I found out that his cancer had spread into his we got a PET scan done. This is after two surgeries, after chemoradiation, like this is after all of that. He's been in treatment since 2019. This is end of December 2020. COVID is out there. Vaccines were not quite available. I didn't get vaccinated till Jan or February of 2021. And so but when I found out that his cancer had returned and it was in metastasized to his lungs, PET scan showed all the way to his pelvic bone. One of my physician friends called me and he said, he doesn't have time. You need to go now.
Mhm.
And for your listeners, like the compassion release from the government of Canada, it's an 8-page document that has to be signed and authorized by the government, and it's only valid for a month. And you have to see where, at that time, just to remind you that in Canada, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And you're only allowed if you were coming for a Canadian citizen, and which I am, and I'm coming for, and I had to get documents signed from my dad, from my brother, from his doctors, like, where are you going to quarantine? Are you taking liability for this? And Canada government, I had to check in every day. I was getting called every day, where you're quarantining, where you're getting your food from, it, like all these questions, which are unnecessary because what we're dealing with. And but I actually had to beg my dad to sign those papers he wasn't ready to sign because he's like, I'm losing one child. What if you get COVID and something happens to you? You're flying, this 5-hour trip. I'm like, I will wear a mask. I will not eat or drink anything. Just let me see my brother. I
Mhm.
did not want to tell my parents how grim the situation was because they were living, breathing it, and they
Mhm.
were in social isolation. And I had to like I couldn't share with my parents what I knew from doctors and what I knew from the medical reports, because whatever little hope they had, I didn't want to like kill it.
Mm.
So I was like, let me just come see Manu. I haven't seen him through this whole time. Let me come. And they allowed me. I had to write, my dad wouldn't even listen to my conversation. I wrote him a long email and I said, you have to let me come see Manu.
Yeah. And
And it was tough.
yeah, he did though, and that's great that he finally did. And you
And
know,
that was the last time I saw him alive.
that's hard.
Yeah.
And so like Manu was in the middle of doing a few different things that you carried on. Let's talk a little bit about those and tell me about it.
Yeah. So Manu was very smart. He was way smarter than me. Um, and he was an eloquent writer. So because of cancer, he wasn't able to move. He was a rugby player. He played provincial rugby. You couldn't beat him at squash. He was a badminton, and like he won all these awards. Like this kid was sporty, you name it. And even after his first surgery, he was out kayaking, like, when he was feeling good. And with COVID, there were very limited activities you could do. So he would go out to Banff and he would kayak in the rivers. And so for him to be just stuck, he couldn't breathe properly. There was fluid in his lungs. So breathing was a challenge. He had a port, he was getting drained, but his mind was active. And he started writing about his journey, about life lessons, knowing that a tomorrow is not promised to him, knowing that he was looking at a world that he was no longer allowed to participate in. And he really wanted to be published. He told me, he's like, I really want this book to be published when I saw him in December. And I said, okay, you have nothing else. He was single, no kids. So I'm like, just write, keep writing as much as you want. Well, I got him a publisher a few weeks before his death. And he was like, no, I want to write more. I have time. I'm like, okay, keep writing. Because I really wanted him to see it in his hand. And when he passed, I found the blogs on his computer and I said, you know what? I'm going to do the one thing I couldn't do anything else for him. I couldn't save him, couldn't help my parents. And so I'm going to publish this book. And that was the book, Life Interrupted, because his life was interrupted. And he called it a survival guide. So it was Dr. Dua's survival guide. And so that was one thing that I did. And another thing was his friends would come over and he would sit and make Legos. And I completed his Batman Lego. My husband and the kids is like this, 3,000 or 5,000 pieces, massive. And we're like, we're going to finish this for him. And, it's all these little things, listening to the music that he liked. And I'm like, I'm going to meet the singer that Manu loved to listen to because he loved to dance to Indian music. And that was one singer he really resonated with because he was short and Manu was short. He's like, oh, this short guy is like, blazing in the world. And I'm really inspired to be
And what's
like
his
him.
name? What's the singer's name?
Diljit Dosanjh. He's an Indian Punjabi singer and he tours a lot in the US and Canada. So yeah, it was all these little things that he wanted to do. And one day I would like to meet him and say, what hope you created, joy in my brother's mind while he was dying.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you created an oral cancer course.
Yeah. It's called Do a Good Job. Dua is a pun of my maiden name, my brother's last name. He created it actually. I got it trademarked. And it's all about oral cancer, from not only from diagnosis, what it is, how do we support our patients, how do we train our team members, how we talk to our patients like, hey, you need a biopsy, and that's a scary word. And then how do we help with grief? That is my last chapter on grief as a provider, because grief as a caregiver, grief helping your patients through it, or whether you yourself are a physician diagnosed with something that, is debilitating. Because as you know, grief is not just about death. Grief is about loss as life as you know it, right? Things that you anticipated and didn't happen and didn't transpire the way I didn't I wanted to be dancing at my brother's wedding and holding his babies. I didn't want to plan his funeral and cradle his ashes. So this was never in the plan. I would have never imagined this to be my life.
Mm-hmm.
So grief comes in many forms.
It does. And you also lost your brother. I mean, your dad. And that was
I
while you
lost
were
him.
finishing up another project sharing Manu's
Right.
story.
Yeah, I wrote an anthology series called Stories of Friends and Family Lost. And these are from people who have lost a family member. And while I was writing Manu's chapter, my dad passed suddenly last American Thanksgiving. Thursday I spoke to him. Friday he was in the ICU on a ventilator with a cardiac arrest, with no issues of cardiac issues ever in his life. And the doctors had no answer. They're like, his heart is fine. There's no blockages. There is no um, clots. There's nothing wrong with his heart. We cannot give you an answer. He just never got over his son's loss. Just never did.
You think he
And
died of
that's what
heartbreak?
grief does. Huh?
You think he
I'm
died of
sorry?
heartbreak?
Oh, yeah, 100%. He died of a broken heart.
Wow.
I think he always was looking for answers with Manu's death. There was a lot of blame, a lot of, and I would keep telling him, like, it's not nobody's fault. He died. My mom carries that blame all the time. She's like, I don't want to come close to you. She lost her parents, her son, and her husband in a matter of 4 years. So she's like, I don't want to be close to you. Maybe I'll kill somebody. I'm like, Mom, you're
Oh,
not killing anybody. It's just unfortunate how things happened.
yeah.
But you have this stigma attached to grief, like that you're bad luck. And my dad just couldn't take the loss. And this is why I'm so into the grief journey and coaching. And, in dentistry, there are a lot of us who commit suicide. Dentistry is notorious because they just don't feel there is a way out when they're burdened with so much. And my dad was healthy, had two knee replacements, full medical checkup last year. And so there's no reason for him to die it was a cardiac arrest. Like his heart just gave up. He just had no desire to live without his son. And so on his death, yes, I'm sad and I miss him and I want to talk to him. I used to talk to him after work every single day, telling him about my day and what happened. And um, but at the same time, he's not suffering mentally anymore. There's physical suffering. You see it, somebody who has cancer or a long-term illness, they're in pain. They're not comfortable. This is not the life they want to have towards the end. And then there's mental trauma that you don't see it, but they're suffering. And he was just done. So I'm like, this
Yeah.
is what he wanted.
And now he's with his son.
Yeah, this is what he wanted.
It's so heartbreaking.
It's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, in a few year span, losing both of them it's hard. And is your mom in
Yeah.
Calgary?
Yes. She's still in Calgary. I still go visit her. It's tough, but she's a tough cookie. So
Yeah.
she's faced a lot of life challenges head on. Um, and there's that realization that once she goes, which inevitably it's going to happen, and uh, you know, we don't know how much time we have with our loved ones, but that's it. That's when my life kind of ends, and almost like what I came from just ends with me because I don't have, my brother's family, his nieces and nephews. Yeah, I have my kids, but they'll never know the essence of who I was. And that's what a
Yeah.
sibling does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hard. And so, the work you're doing and the legacy you're carrying on in your brother's name and your dad's name, and it's so impactful and it's going to help save lives and educate so many people. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And as we wrap up this conversation, what advice do you have for someone who's going through something similar? Maybe a sibling is ill and, they're maybe just at the beginning of that journey or they're midway through. Like, what is your advice for them?
So one, take lots of pictures, videos, those voice mementos. It's just nice to hear back. And if your sibling has any kids or, or for your own kids to create little letters or something that to share a family pearl or something special that makes you,
Yeah.
that's very particular to your family, just kind of passing on that legacy in some way. I would just spend lots of time with them as much as you can. If you can relocate to be closer to them, if you can take off from work just to be and spend time in person, because time is this one precious commodity. We're not told we can't get it back, we can't go back to it, we can't refund it, we can't return it, we can't exchange it. It's whatever we have, and that's it. And we're not sure how much we have. So whatever time you have, just spend it with them and do the things they ask you to do, whether you may or may not like it, but give their soul that peace that, that they can move forward.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful advice. How can people find you if they want to learn more about you, your grief
Yeah.
support, your course, your books?
So everything's on my website. I'm sure you have it on the links below, but DUA Good Job, or my full name, Parul Dua Makkar. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm pretty active on there, or LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's DUA Good Job. DUA Good Job.
I
So
love it. Yeah. So if you're out there listening, I mean, she's amazing, really inspiring, especially with everything that she's been through. Give her a follow, connect with her. If you know people in the dental world, show them this course. This course is going to save lives. And
yes.
thank you so much for joining us on Resilient AF today.
I'm just honored to be here. Thank you.
And you could learn more about her also because she's going to be in Resilient AF, Stories of Resilience, Volume 3, which is out in March. Yes, you have to wait till March, but you don't actually have to wait till March because you can just dive into her stuff now. And
Yeah.
thank you for tuning in to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana, but not Alana today, but we do have Parul. Remember, it's okay to not be okay. Like you are
Yeah.
not alone, even though at times it does feel very isolating and lonely. We want to be that lighthouse in the storm for you. Let us hold your hand and walk you through the darkest days. And just remember, friends, you are resilient AF. That's a wrap for another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. And thank you for listening. Are you feeling inspired to bounce forward?
Let's connect at theglobalresilienceproject.com, where you can read many stories of resilience, buy our books, shop our clothing line, learn more about how to strengthen your resilience muscle, be empowered, and more.
Remember, friends, you are resilient AF.